Hello, I am the Casual Collector, and tonight we're going to talk about 21st century toys. Before I get started, I'd like to thank Rex Adams and Marcel Fuentes for talking to me over the years about these pieces, selling me a few pieces, and just being general stand-up guys. What we're going to be looking at tonight is one rare piece and a whole lot of pre-production pieces. So these are prototypes, paint masters, resin bits, and some other stuff. And we're just going to kind of talk through these pieces and what they mean. So to start off, we're going to take a look at the smaller scale stuff here. So these aircraft are pre-production paint masters which were used for perfecting the look of the aircraft. I do know that Minigun 3 over here, the Hellcat, was not a released piece. I do believe the BF-109s, and I do know that the P-40 Rusty over there were released as actual pieces. We also have a 144 scale Spitfire here, which is still in the Matrix. If you notice, you can see part of the tail peeking out, which is why he's not leaving the box, because he is a bit fragile. As are these. You'll notice that the wheels or the cockpits are missing from some of these, and Minigun 3 is missing the antennas. But they are beautiful, beautiful pieces. You can even see some of the markings, either from foam that was recycled from the workshop or from the factory there. We have a couple of 1/18 scale resin bits for Vietnam, and 2 paint masters for an Army Ranger and the Africa Corps. You'll notice just how beautiful the paint is compared to production pieces. It is flaking a little bit in some places. It is fragile. And if you actually have these figures in hand, you'll notice they aren't particularly mobile. They are glued together, and the Africa Corps figure actually has magnets holding his legs in place to achieve the posture that he's got. Now, for these heads, most of these are reproductions off of prototypes. This is a lot of zombies from the Grimsphere line. I believe the mustached gentleman is a fire captain. Battery check there on the corner, and the black pirate deckhand from the Pirates line. I love these pieces because they really show you the character and the quality of the head sculpting process. We also have Soviet survival acts from their Spetsnaz Alpha team. This teddy bear, I do believe, is one of the original pieces. This was going to be with the Devil's Brigade figure with the LMG. And I think that Rex Adams over here was also an original. I do have one of the die-cast 44 mags somewhere, but I can't find it. But just a beautiful, beautiful head sculpt. We also have a pre-production piece here. This is a packaging master for a D-Day invasion set. If you notice, the plastic hasn't held up very well over the years. I don't believe this was an actually released piece, which is a shame because I'm pretty sure that is the first all-cloth invasion vest for a D-Day figure. You'll notice the bits are held together in tape or with a little sticky tag or glue. And we can see on the back here some of the other pieces from the last line of 21st century toys. So these boxes are pre-production pieces. These are prototypes. The BOM is the bill of materials, and you'll note the date. You'll also note that some of these pieces, most of these pieces are older. We do have a new head sculpt. We do have boots that have been reworked. As you can see on the actual piece, differences in the paint quality between the chest rig, which came from the Mike Force figure, and the boots, which are matte black. You can, however, see just the beauty of this hand-painted matte 49. Gorgeous, gorgeous piece. along with the quality of the hand-painted straw hat, rice hat, which also has some of the blue tack to hold it in place with the head. And the head sculpt, hand-painted, with a few resin prototype pieces as well. If you've seen old pictures of the 21st Century Toy shows, you will also note that this signage might be a little bit familiar because they did exhibit this piece at a show, I believe, and I believe this is the sign that they used for that. We also have a figure for the ISA in Central America in the 1980s. However, if you note, first the date, start of 2001. This figure got rebranded after 9/11, became CIA in Afghanistan. You'll note the sewing masters, which are the white uniforms, and the utterly gorgeous Guatemalan camouflage. Beautiful, beautiful pieces. And the spy vest with the integrated stable rig. You can also see examples of the prototype head sculpt. Second one. And a second VOM in the bottom of the box. And last prototype, before we get to Tanya here, is one of my favorites, Battery Chuck. So Battery Chuck is a baseball fan. He's a fan of the Blackwater Devils, which we're going to talk about here in a second. And he got his name Battery Chuck because Philly fans at the time had a habit of tossing batteries at the opposing players, which is why he looks like he's coming out of a fight, because he's a baseball hooligan. You can clearly see the marks indicating this is handmade, hand-painted. Beautiful, beautiful piece. So, Blackwater in 169 is a in-joke that the design team had. 169 was the color for Vallejo Black. Blackwater, black paint water, 169. So you'll see that number appear periodically on 21st Century Toys products. It's just an in-joke. Next we have Tanya, or as she was known when she was rebranded, Tammy. Tammy is referencing a very infamous incident during the 1960s and 1970s with the various radical groups. When Patty Hearst was kidnapped, brainwashed by the SLA. You can see there's the sewing masters there for peacoat. And she participated in some of their armed activities. Holster originally came with the SOG figure, the 1-0. Well, when Patty Hearst's lawyers learned that 21st Century Toys was making an action figure branded Tanya, which bore an awful strong resemblance to Patty Hearst at the time, they contacted 21st Century Toys and said they weren't really happy. The prototype was rebranded, but did not survive. They pulled the plans to make the figure. But as you can see, it was a really nice figure. I love the peacoat. The work on this is just phenomenal, and that is probably one of the best Molotov cocktails I've ever seen in a scale piece. Let's just gently put this back here. I'd also like to highlight, even though this isn't a prototype, this is certainly a rare piece, Soviet paratrooper. I've seen too many of these things on the market to know that they were, to think that they were unreleased. But this thing is cool as heck. Wijindao finally did one of these. It took them a long time to release one of these to market, but they did the KLMK jumpsuit, chest rig. It's just a gorgeous piece, and we can see a couple of the other unreleased figures here on the back. The female Kursk sniper actually did see pre-production work. I've seen 2 packaging masters for it. I've never seen the Devil's Brigade outside of production pieces. I've seen the prototype for the RPG gunner sold online. I've never seen the Alpha Team for Spetsnaz, and I think the IDF was also unreleased, along with the EMT, female EMT, excuse me. But what could have been? So these pieces are very interesting. When pieces were made initially by the Chinese factory, they didn't always come out right. And so these first shot corrections are pieces from 21st Century Toys with corrections for the Chinese factory for fixing these parts. And some of these can be very, very insightful. You'll notice that a lot of these are Vietnam. I'm a big fan of that era. A few more of these here. Hush Puppy for seal. And you'll notice the sprue errors is something that will also be repeated on the Stoner piece here in a second. So I'll pull out here. Lastly, one of my favorite bits is the helicopter helmet for the first Cav figure. Just a gorgeous piece. You can really tell the difference in the quality between this and a production piece, just holding it in hand, looking at the paint. The other bit I'll highlight for these correction pieces are some of these bits that have the little notes with the Chinese characters stapled on them. So I've taken these to a translator previously, and these have notations basically of denoting where the errors are on the pieces or issues that have been spotted with them. These are also sorts of corrections, except for cloth bits. You can see that there, which is also apparent here with the hats. If you'll notice, they're different shades, even though they're the same make same make and pattern. Now we'll do one more here. Very interesting for me. I always love seeing these how the sausage is made, so to speak. Speaking of which, and how the sausage is made, take a look at two more resin bits. Well, one more, I should say. The Minigun. I just love the look of this thing. It's mean. It's got that M60 hand grip there. And the barrel does rotate. I'm not going to play too much with it. I love this thing. It just looks neat, just neat, nasty. So, let's talk about a little story about the Grimsphere. 21st Century Toys had an idea of a line of zombie fighters, Special Forces zombie fighters, who were using any means and any weapons at their disposal to fight against zombie hordes. The zombie apocalypse would have been started by vampires, which were facing a schism between these punk rock looking new wave guys and these old world vampires who would have been wearing like frilly shirts and 18th century clothes, who were fighting with vampire hunters in the vein of Van Helsing, who's got that little cane sword there. You would also have laboratory scientists and hillbillies, like Zeke over here with his Mini 14, his stitched up web gear, his straw hat, flannel, and the Elvis-looking guy with the chainsaw on the right over there. Problem was when 21st Century Toys tried to sell this to Toys R Us, Toys R Us took a look at the line, and they saw that we were trying to sell toys that had bits of human skin sewn onto the boots, like Zeke's boots here, and severed heads and jars and things like that, and they said, no thank you, we don't want to have your zombie line because it's frankly horrifying. So you can kind of see with the heads there, too. These are Zeke's original boots, by the way. I love this. It's if you notice, it's basically a resin boot with the modeling clay sculpted on. That makes them very fragile. If you notice, I'm grabbing them by the heel because that clay will smudge if you touch it wrong. But that's not the most fragile thing, though, here. Well, probably the most fragile. Touch it wrong, it'll smudge. This guy is Brooklyn Axe. He is one of the anti-zombie special forces. If you notice, I'm handling him very gingerly. He's got a little paint rub on the nose there. His pouches are held together with sticky tack and glue. And if you notice, it's all repainted web gear that was used for something else. They took all of these stock pieces and they made them into this awesome anti-zombie thing. There's one of the bits that Toys R Us was horrified by again. And you've got the hand-painted hands, the details. These things are just absolutely gorgeous in hand. See the 169 appearing again. And joke to referencing Vallejo Black and the design team. But if you notice on the artwork, and 169, he would have been equipped with an axe or some kind of melee weapon to fight against the zombie horde. You'll also see that these boots are resin, and they don't necessarily fit well with a pre-done figure than other gloves. You had body drilled out. Like, we'll demonstrate it better actually. They chopped up the leg and they drilled out a hole to put the peg on. And that was the only way they were going to get this to hold together without doing major modifications to the body or getting those done in rubber. You can see the blue tack is there holding the grenades in place. These were all handmade prototypes. You can see our dear friend the burner over here, how he would have looked. You can see the pieces are very, very fragile. Blue tack again for the hands to hold them together. Detailing is just absolutely phenomenal. And you can also see he's kind of coming apart over the years. Holster would have had this pistol in it. You can kind of see some of these bits. When I got these initially, they really were in pieces. Let me see here. You can see where the plastic broke on the center here, where there's lines for the crack. And I basically had to put these back together, fix them up. You can see that the head's got the burns. But if possible, I left it as it was, just in honor of these devs and the work that they did, because these are really awesome pieces. But one last thing to honor the devs before we wrap this up. There are two pieces that I treasure the most out of this stuff. One is the Grimsphere production art, because I think that's all just cool as all get out. The other thing I got here are two 5-star binders. From Marcelo Fuentes, detailing the BOMs and production notes for all of these pieces. Oh, there's our friend, the Devil's Brigade. And there's his BOM. And if you look at the photos here, you can see that teddy bear strapped to the back. These are actually what was made. There's the female sniper. We also have one here. Oop. Which details the production notes for absolutely everything else that was not made. Project 2002. And if you want to see these, I will put a list up for where you can find all the production notes for these pieces. The unofficial BOMs for all these pieces that either were not made or existed only in the barest of prototype forms. I hope you enjoyed this little stroll down memory lane. And I hope you find this interesting. This was real joy to go through this stuff, and I'm the Casual Collector, and I hope you enjoyed this look at 21st Century Toys. Have a good night.